It's really brilliant to be talking to you today. I loved exploring the commission and really delving into the podcast and the film and the photographs. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, what it was like as a visual artist to be commissioned by or commissioned to respond to a theatre company.
Thanks, Helen. Thanks for engaging with the work. I suppose there's a little bit of added context in that I also do the digital management for Theatre Absolute. So I've worked with Chris and Julia for the past sort of 3 years. So I've like witnessed their different projects really closely, and so that's given me a really good insight into the really sort of experimental, flexible way that they work, commissioning really like multifaceted, kind of multidisciplinary projects, and just like really rooting for artists and commissioning them like to work without pressure and just to explore what's really authentic to them. So I felt quite comfortable coming into the commission as a visual artist, and it felt quite a little bit as well of a continuum from other conversations I've had with Chris and Julia, where we made short films that delved into their individual artistic practices. So I sort of ran with this idea of building on my sort of visual photography practice with conversations and dialogue with Chris and Julia, which really excited me, because I've always been quite curious, about podcasting and, different ways of communication and sharing ideas. So obviously there's this really strong visual element to the work in that it's a film and photographs, but the fact that it's also a conversation, and that's just as important as the other elements.
Woven through the commission is an emphasis on, or an exploration of, what happens when things are unplanned. You were really interested in kind of the random and random encounters. And I wondered what it's like as an artist to kind of approach the artistic work without a fully formed plan, or to explore a city without a fully detailed map. Can you tell me a bit about how the random chance encounters, things like that, has been a factor of your work?
So when I was at university studying photography, we were really encouraged to pre-visualize our work and sort of have a clear plan or concept before starting out. And I think for a while I thought there was something problematic with my practice, because I never really was able to do that. But then I sort of discovered the situationists, the French philosophers Guy Debord in the 1960s, and that whole surrealist practice around being the authentic self in following the contours of an environment and responding in the moment, and that again being quite a sort of unusual, disruptive way to go about things. So that sort of kind of reassured me a little bit, and I guess despite any efforts to try and make a plan and stick to a specific idea, I can't help but be most sort of enchanted by like surprise and what the fact that you don't quite know what's around the corner.
So, in different bits of the work, for me, when I was watching and listening, the city feels quite empty. I think particularly in when I looked at the film, and that contrasts with the way that the audio of the podcast really kind of captures the fact that the city's not empty at all, and it's bustling, full of life, and there's lots of kind of excuse me and sorry as you and Chris are kind of treading around people on your walk through the city. And it made me wonder about, the tension between working on your own as an artist, working perhaps in a studio space or in a kind of in a self-directed solo way, versus working in the middle of a bustling and vibrant city, perhaps working with communities or working in community spaces where there are people all around you. I wonder if you could talk to me a bit about that and the tension as an artist between being alone and being part of a crowd, part of a gang, maybe.
I've found this question like I don't know, it feels like one of the most important questions and like something I think about all the time. But I think it comes back to these sort of like innate like human sort of instincts and your personal sort of characteristics, because like I feel like, I don't know, there's a lot to say, but like when I'm like truly sort of alone exploring a place, I think is when I really connect to the idea of like feeling artistic, like in this truest sense. I've sort of go to a lot of places, with my partner or friends, and I'm not really connected to that part of myself in the same way. So I feel like being alone is actually like so intrinsic to like making work, or maybe it's that you need to have those moments to like truly reconnect to who you are and what you're interested in, and then you go off and you collaborate and you work with other people. But yeah, it's a real like interesting like sort of balancing act, I think, and also sort of reminds me a little bit of this sort of spectrum of like people's mentalities being introverted or extroverted, and like I'm not really sure if some people might be one or the other, but I'm really interested in like how people need bits of both to really flourish. So would you say artistically you're an introvert or an extrovert, or that you kind of oscillate between those two positions? I think I'm definitely maybe more of like an introvert at core, but like it's just been so like important and like powerful to like work with people and like sort of see where that takes you, and I guess ultimately come back to like editing a film on your own in this sort of quiet way. But I don't know, I feel like being part of a network of people and being like part of a community in a really meaningful way, particularly in like the artistic sort of world, it's like crucial to your practice to help you contextualize what you're doing, and also just have camaraderie with people, because it's like a really tough industry. I don't know. Working with people is very special. It's like you can't really. It's just two different practices really altogether.
So the commission prompted you to read a lot and to engage a lot, particularly with the critical thinking on walking, on how people occupy space, and the different ways that different people take up that space and take up the position of walking through it. And I wonder whether doing all of that reading and thinking has kind of transformed your artistic practice in any way, and what might come next out of the commission.
I think that's what's really uniquely special about being commissioned by Theatre Absolute, is that they sort of allow you all this time to like breathe and explore. And reading is something I suppose like should be really, really important to artistic practice and just obviously really life in general, but it's like it so often goes like overlooked and you don't really prioritize it. But it sort of feels, I don't know, I know like there's a bit of an argument around whether it can be distracting to an idea that you're trying to explore in an authentic way, or it's going to like steer you in a certain way. But for me, I feel like I have so much reading to catch up on and do. It feels it kind of gives your work like a proper weight and like meaning, really, to contextualize it with other ideas. I always strive to do more of that in my practice, but it's like I find it really hard, I think, just to make work at all, actually. And again, that's why the commission was so like precious, because it forced you to sort of focus on something. But I think because I have a lot of different interests, I just struggle to like focus on a project and really carry things out. So
I guess reading and being invited to talk about the reading is transformational too. That sense of I've explored this work and I want to talk to you about it or explore it with you was the real beauty of this commission. Do you think, in terms of that critical writing on walking and walking as a political or artistic practice, that's something you're going to kind of take further?
Yeah, I think it was sort of like about time I made a piece of work about walking, because it's sort of all of my photographic practice is carried out on foot and is all about being present in a space in this like slower paced sort of way and spending time somewhere. So to actually focus in on walking as a subject, I was like so pleased I did it. And there's like a really great collective of artists in the West Midlands called Walk Space West Midlands, and they all have walking as part of their practice, and they take part in so many different kinds of events and activities around walking as well, obviously making their own work, and sort of I feel like I'm kind of delving more into this world. But like I say, I have so many interests, and when you mention like writing and literature as well, it makes me think of also just having this like real collector's kind of brain. Like I'll collect lots of ephemera and like receipts and scraps of paper, and obviously all my photographs are kind of like one huge collection, and it all kind of feeds in and informs like where you're going, but at the same time like this mass of information and beauty, like that's also partly the thing that stops me being able to focus on one thing. So that's why the commission
was a blessing and a curse.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's always like more to see, isn't there? And like, I don't know if I answered the question.
It did.